All right, so this Nitro here show opened with clips from Thunder.
Oh, God. All right, so here's what happened. So they said, on Thunder, we will show you the clips of Starrcade and the alleged fast count, and we will let you, the viewer, make up your mind on whether or not Sting got screwed. So you know what they did? They aired the footage unedited, and it wasn't a fucking fast count. They killed the guy.
Yeah.
So then they do a rematch. And the idea is we're going to do a rematch, and this time, Nick Patrick's going to count fast. They do the fucking match, and this son of a bitch doesn't count fast again.
That was the one on Nitro.
No, on Thunder, the second one.
There was a match on Nitro that ended before or ended after the show.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
They aired it on Thunder.
Got it. Okay.
This fucking guy for the second time didn't do a fast count. Mm-hmm. He's tasked with a fast count twice. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yes.
Fucks it up 2 times.
Maybe he's just not a very fast man.
Maybe he should have been fired. Maybe everybody should have been fired, and they should have just shut this promotion down. If I were in charge, I'd have shut everything down after this. Bullshit. And then they announced that they're stripping Sting of the title, which they show footage of later. Mm-hmm. So they spend a year building this up. They fuck it up. They fuck it up again, and then they take the title away from the guy. And the way they do it, it's J.J. Dillon stripping Sting of the title, and Sting throws a belt down at J.J.'s feet, and it's like, so you're telling me that you spent a fucking year on this goddamn storyline, and your big angle at the end, the big payoff, is they fucked over Sting at the end. That's what you came up with after a year?
Yep.
The company screwed the guy again? I need to write this whole book over again.
You were way too soft on them?
Oh, yeah. I need to write a third version.
The real death of WCW.
God, this is so bad. Like, it gets worse and worse. I thought it was as bad as could be. The more I watch it, the more I realize, really, it's way worse than I wrote about. Way worse.
So Sting has not spoken since the Nitro After Fall Brawl. He finally speaks, cuts a promo here, when he tells Dillon, "You got no guts," and he turns to Hogan and says, you're a dead man. So at least Sting's still fighting.
Yeah, for what?
I don't know. So back on Nitro, Gene attempts to interview the NWO in the parking lot. There are audio issues aplenty here in this wrestling company owned by a giant media conglomerate. Kevin Nash shows up on national television in a blue button-up over an Outsiders t-shirt, in weightlifting pants and a fanny pack, and tennis shoes. So Nash says, Oakland asks Nash, did you hit Randy Savage on purpose? Which is a dumb question if you watched it, because he sure as hell hit him on purpose. Nash says, Savage hit Eric Bischoff. He was going after Hulk Hogan. I had to teach him a lesson. Hogan intervenes, says, that is all in the past. The most important thing is to get the world title back now. Bischoff is mad at Oakland for stirring shit up, and they all start to leave, and Nash gets in one last line for Gene. Savage don't want none of me. No one's happy. They're sulking and pouting and shuffling their way into the building, and the camera's set up like they're walking right towards the camera, and they kind of peel off to the side to go in, and so you see Bischoff, and then Hogan, and then Nash, and then Conan, and they're all sad and unhappy and tense and awkward and uncomfortable, and the last guy is Bagwell, who looks and sees the camera, and has a huge smile and the double bicep, because he's so happy being buff and being the stuff. 1998 Buff Bagwell is my favorite wrestler, I've decided. He was so awesome.
It's almost over, though.
I know.
It sucks.
He's almost, yeah. It was awesome. Goldberg versus Jerry Flynn.
I must take over. This fucking match was so awesome.
It really was.
Listen, apparently they had a match on like Saturday or whatever. They had a worldwide taping or something, and it was just going to be Bill Goldberg versus Jerry Flynn in a squash match. And Bill Goldberg and Jerry Flynn went in the back, and they're like, we got 2 minutes. Let's do some shit. They went out there. They fucking had a fight. And whoever was there watching went, dude, this was awesome. We got to put this on Nitro. So they put it on Nitro, and these guys go out there, and they have a fake fight.
A fake mixed martial arts battle.
But I can't even call it fake, because I don't even know what it was.
The only thing
Like,
that was...
it was fake, but it was a fight. And you know, Goldberg always comes out to this day, and whether he's doing an interview or whether he's doing a promo on television, he talks about how he's like Roddy Piper. He goes, fight. He always uses the word fight. I'm going to have a fight at these fights in WCW. He was like, why call them fights? They're matches. Now I know why. This was not a match. This was a fight. And I watched it, and I loved it. I was so in love with this. And I thought, you know what? This was more fun and exciting than like 80% of real fights in UFC.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's 20% of real fights that are better than this one. This was better than 80% of them.
Yeah.
It just really hit me. If you know what you're doing, like, fake pro wrestling is so much better than MMA in terms of, like, trying to make stars and exciting matches and programs and everything like that.
It should be.
But pro wrestling today fucks it all up.
Yeah.
And UFC's making money hand over fist, and WWF can't get one guy over. It's just amazing. This was so great.
They exchanged MMA holds.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Arm breakers, ground and pound, knee bars. The one moment that was just out and out fake, as Brian noted, Goldberg's working for, like, I believe a heel hook. Or Goldberg's working for the knee bar. Flynn grabbed a heel hook, and I am, you could charitably call me an MMA novice. But when he grabbed his heel hook, I realized Goldberg's done right there. And Flynn realized, oh shit, Goldberg's done right now. And he let go right away. So they kept fighting, and Goldberg hit a powerbomb. And the best part is, he's like hitting side kicks to the gut, and Goldberg sells them. But he sells them by grabbing his belly and walking backwards, hitting the ropes, bouncing back with a spear. That was awesome. And he hits the jackhammer and wins. The place goes nuts. And on that note, by the way, did anyone write down where this was?
Who gives a shit?
It
was awesome.
Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville, Florida.
They should have run Nitro out of Jacksonville every week. This crowd was awesome. They were
Vinny,
in everything.
You could have put this goddamn match in Antarctica, and it would have gotten over.
Penguins would have cheered.
Everybody would. Bears, penguins, ice would have melted with the heat.
There's no bears in Antarctica.
How dare you correct me?
He introduced the Nitro girls, including a new one named Whisper. My favorite.
Oh.
I hear she has great taste in men. Black Cat versus Marty Jannetty.
Where did they find Black Cat?
Mexico.
Oh,
Yeah.
clears that up.
As they explained, Black Cat's a 20-year vet who has trained tons and tons of dudes. He, Japanese ethnicity, I think he's born and raised in Mexico, but has worked with Liger and thousands of other names. And of course, Marty Jannetty at this point was a 15-year vet from back in the territory days. So these two veteran pro wrestlers went in there and went to work. It was really good.
And a great match.
There was a point where Black Cat hit essentially Finn Balor's 1916 DDT and appeared to kill Marty Jannetty.
Oh, that was brutal.
And then Marty came back and won with the Rocker Dropper, and then he threw the best celebration of all time.
God, he was running and jumping.
He's running in circles around the ring. He's running in place and pumping his fists. He starts hitting the ropes, doing random somersaults. He was so happy. It was awesome. Gene was outside waiting for more NWO dudes to arrive. They did.
Limo pulls up. Here is who's traveling together. Randy Savage, Liz, Scott Hall, who is not in pristine condition,
Well, they're in
and
a limo.
Tenzon.
Yeah.
All right.
Here we go. See Tenzon, yeah. So Savage is going off about he's got a match with Luger tonight and he's running him down. Gene says, Randy Savage, have you heard what Kevin Nash said about you? And Savage flips. What did he say about me? Tell me what he said. Tell me right now. Savage, or Gene won't tell him. So Savage turns to Nash.
What a goddamn shit stirrer that Gene was. You're going to go to Randy Savage, and you're going to tell him that somebody said something about you, but you're not going to tell him what they said. Are you kidding me?
So Savage
That's worse
turns
than
to
Dasha.
Nash's running buddy and says, you're an outsider. What the hell did Nash say about me? And Scott Hall's like, I just got here.
I was driving with you, buddy.
So they stormed into the building. Dean Malenko versus Chris Benoit. It was during this match I determined this crowd was awesome because they were going nuts for counters and roll-ups, jumping to their feet at a 2.1 count. It's quite great. Dean uses the short-arm scissors, and Benoit escapes doing the backland lift into a powerbomb. Shivani says, I have never seen that before. To be fair, I don't know how often Bob Backlund worked the Carolinas.
That's fair.
Probably not very. So the crowd's into everything. Dean also tried a victory roll. 2 victory rolls on the show. I was very excited because I haven't seen one in a long time. But he tried one, and Benoit dropped him on his face, hooked the crossface for the win. And as soon as the bell rang, Raven zooms in. He drops Benoit with a DDT. Raven and Malenko have a stare down, but Saturn jumps Malenko from behind, puts in the rings of Saturn, and that is that.
Hey, should be a fun tag team match down
Yes.
the road.
We saw that tag team match, didn't we?
So
know.
close to it.
Spring Stampede.
At least 3/4. I know it was Benoit and Malenko versus Raven and somebody.
Right.
Probably Saturn.
Anyway,
It was good then.
it really was.
Probably good on Nitro too. Okerlund interviewed J.J. Dillon. Okay. This segment was nuts. Not in a good way. So there's some kind of Lex Luger, Buff Bagwell, Savage kerfluffle on Thunder.
Excuse me, a kerfluffer?
That's a kerfluffle.
That's different, Brian.
Yeah, this is a kerfluffle, not a kerfluffer. So then they showed Savage decking Bischoff on Nitro last week. Then J.J. Dillon starts talking about Chris Adams being disqualified for using a chair.
Right.
What?
Yeah, that's what he said.
When?
I'm not sure.
Perhaps in Dallas 10 years ago at this point. So he fines Savage $5,000 for striking Eric Bischoff because Bischoff was not a contracted wrestler. Savage runs out to confront Dillon. And I do mean run. This dude did play pro baseball. He runs out to confront Dillon, orders him to take it back. Bischoff runs out trying to calm Savage down. He says, I'll pay the fine. Savage says, it's not the money, it's the principle. And Bischoff screams, principle? I'm the one who got hit. Oh, that was a great point. Mm-hmm. So then Savage changes course. He wants to know what Nash has said. No one will tell him. They go to commercial. Savage is still screaming at everybody.
Savage is such a great, paranoid, crazy fuck.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a better one?
There's never been a more authentic one.
I know what Craig's thinking.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
So, we're in the ring. Gene brings out DDP for a promo. Paige comes out sporting the long hair pulled through the back of a baseball cap look.
Classic.
By the way, I have
that
to
worse than
make
fanny
sure.
pack?
I have
And
to
white
make
jeans.
sure.
And white jeans.
Before we go any further, I have to make sure that we remind people that the fine levied on Randy Savage was $5,000.
Right.
Let's remember that.
Okay. So they announced the main event on Thunder this week will be Paige and Luger versus Savage and Nash. And they began making fun of the NWO fighting with each other, even though they claim to be for life. And Paige says, I thought Savage and Liz were for life too. And Gene loses it.
Gene howls and then says, you can't say that on TV.
So Paige says he and Lex are going to win. Booker T versus Saturn.
I actually like this whole thing right here. They had a little match. Saturn cheated to win. Rick Martel came out, alerted the ref.
Stooge.
They restart the match. Booker wins. And then Rick Martel says, hey, can I have a title shot now? Booker says, I got an open contract. Thought, wow, that was a good little storyline there.
Everything makes sense. It's actually even better because Booker was the first one to say, I owe you one. And Martel says,
That's right.
Martel says, well, since you're in a giving mood. So there you go. Yeah, and the match was a very fun match. It felt like a 3 or 4 minute highlight reel of a really good 50-minute match.
That Harlem Hangover that he does.
Yeah, Bobby Heenan's never saw it before. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Never seen
what he
it.
said.
They say that every week.
Yeah.
How did-
Was Bobby even on this show?
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
remember a thing he said.
Eventually he came out.
I see.
It did seem like it took much longer than usual.
Anyway, it looks dangerous.
I'm sure he waffled some people with it. Okerlund brought out the Giant and Nick Lambros.
Yeah, Nick Lambros
for a
is
promo.
back.
He was a vice president or something.
He's a regular now. No, he's an attorney.
Giant has dropped some poundage and is ripped. Not just now, but in 19 years ago.
Yeah. No.
No, now he is. Have
I
you
know.
seen him lately?
I know. I'm saying
Oh
both.
my God, he's shredded.
In this segment, with these small humans, I thought he looked 10 feet tall and 5,000 pounds at 4% body.
Well,
Sure.
I think Craig may be conflating the fat giant of today. This guy was really skinny,
He was lean.
and now he's jacked. I don't remember the fat period that he's lost. I think he's only getting more and more jacked from his skinny stage.
There was a time late last year.
As in 97?
Right. Yeah. Where he was starting to put weight on.
Well, he switched course.
Exactly. He looks good. And now.
Yeah. He looks monstrous in the segment. So, they say Nash was supposed to wrestle Giant at Starrcade, but no-showed. This is not acceptable. So if they're going to do a rematch that's sold out, they are demanding the NWO post a $1.5 million bond.
Yeah, let's fine Randy Savage $5,000 and then claim there's a $1.5 million performance bond for Kevin Nash to show up for a fucking match.
Should pay him $1.5 million to stay away. So, yes, the NWO must put up $1.5 million to ensure that he actually shows up for the show this time. And if they do not, then Nash is going to be suspended for 1 year.
I love when they announce $1.5 million performance bonus, or bond, not a bonus, a bond. And Gene says, that's a little stiff. And Nick Lambros says, and I quote, it's not stiff.
That is how it went down.
Oddly enough, he was the stiff one in the segment.
Yeah. So the ad, we're tired of Eric Bischoff spending Ted Turner's money. As of right now, Eric Bischoff is cut off. Not one more cent. And there's where I thought, it took you nearly 2 years to do that. You could have done that this whole time. So Giant says he just wants Nash to show up. Outcome, Bischoff, Hogan, and Nash, and as I wrote, some guy.
Henry Holmes. Who was awesome.
So Nash hangs out on the floor. Hogan, Bischoff, and Henry Holmes get in the ring. They explain Henry Holmes is a powerful Hollywood attorney, which is probably true.
Let me talk about this because it needs to be built up. Henry Holmes, who was legitimately Hogan's lawyer, I'm sure till the Gawker thing.
I was going to say,
and he got out of town.
Probably got a few.
Holmes says, we will put up the $1.5 million as a performance guarantee. Hulk Hogan is going to put the money up. And since he is putting it up, like in Hollywood, there's always a catch. He says they're going to require WCW and the Giant to also put up $1.5 million as a guarantee. And in that time, Giant cannot touch or even come near Kevin Nash. If he does, he will forfeit the $1.5 million. And there's a pause. And then Henry Holmes says, and of course I'll get my share too. It's like, this is the best slimy lawyer ever.
He was awesome.
He's unrepentant.
Yeah.
I'm a lawyer, and I'm going to get my fucking money.
Yep.
Because I'm shady.
So everyone made sure the Giant agreed to this with little hesitation. He says, I'm a patient man. I can wait till sold out. So Nash gets in the ring. He makes sure with everyone this deal has been agreed to and is legally binding. And then he gets in Giant's face and acts as annoying as possible. Mocking him, headbutting him almost, pushing him back. Giant just laughs it off and leaves. This is a great angle.
It was awesome. And this Nick Lambros, God bless him. He was a guy, and they gave him a script, and he had to recite some lines. Henry Holmes, he was a character. He's like, oh man, I get to be a slimy lawyer? I'm going to go all out with this.
He's Hogan's attorney.
He was amazing. He was the best character on this whole show.
Well, Craig is right. He is exactly what you expect Hogan's attorney to be.
Dude, is he still around? I want him on Raw. I want this guy to be the heel GM. I hate the heel GMs, but if it were Henry Holmes, I'd love it. God, he was great.
Can you imagine those two talking to each other and they're both spreading a line of BS that nobody is buying, but they keep doing it because they're trying to put one over on each other?
It's quite possible neither of them has ever been honest with the other.
That's very true.
With a Luger Savage hype video consisting of all the times Lex Luger has already wrestled Randy Savage.
I bet they're both such workers that when they get together, it negates itself and they can only speak the truth to each other.
Like a double negative.
And they're the only two people that ever speak the truth to each other. And then when they split, they're back to themselves again.
The only lawyer that uses a light handshake.
Yeah, it's my theory.
It's like Firestorm. Anyway, yeah, at least Luger and Savage stopped fighting for a while, unlike Roman and Owens who just fight every week forever. Hugh Morris versus Lex Luger. They did some clumsy stuff.
All the weight the Giant lost, Hugh Morris has found
it. He's not a small guy. He's not a cruiserweight. They did some clumsy stuff. Hugh missed a splash. Maybe that's why he didn't do the moonsault. Just missed a splash instead.
Yeah.
And Lex won with a torture rack, and hey, he's big, but he ain't too big for Lex.
You know, there was a lesson I learned here. Luger is so over every week, and he's not a very good wrestler, and he's not a very good promo. And his move is he puts a guy on his shoulders. That's his fucking move. A rack. But the point is, when you have a move, and you beat everybody with it, and nobody ever escapes, and you have a great signal for it, which is he puts his hands in the air and goes like this, it's over. This guy, am I wrong? He has the most over finisher on this whole show.
Oh, absolutely.
Is there anybody else that has a more over finisher than the fucking rack?
Well,
Diamond Cutter.
DDP, yeah.
I guess. Look, he gets a big pop when he hits it. But Luger, gets the big build-up and then the big pop. The whole thing. Anyway, I just was watching it thinking, all these guys doing, a red arrow and a Steiner square driver and a jackhammer and an F5 and all these crazy moves. This guy's got a rack that he got over. It's pretty impressive.
It's easy to get the rack over.
Been over a few racks?
Couple.
Anyway. So
Thank you for killing my brilliant point to the kids today.
After the match,
There are no kids listening to this.
You kidding me?
Elizabeth runs out to get Luger's attention, and she is crying and begging for help, and Lex is confused.
No, this was great. Lex was not a stupid babyface. Lex did not buy this, but he let down his guard just long enough to get jumped. He wasn't the dumb shit Enzo who thought, oh, Lana really wants to fuck me. What a lucky day for me.
For those of you paying attention, Brian has pointed out Lex Luger is not like Enzo Amore.
No, he's not.
So, they get to the top of the aisle. Luger is confused, I will say that. But Savage zooms in and jumps in from behind. The best part of all this is how Liz goes from damsel in distress to devious vixen. She just wipes her hands off and puts her hands on her hips and stands there like she's so smart. Savage beats up Lex, holds him so Liz can slap him one time. Paige runs out to make the save. Savage and Liv scurry off. A fan steals Paige's hat. Paige looks at him and shouts, I don't know what he said, but the fan gave him the hat back immediately. Sorry, Mr. Page. I have been wrong. They showed a Steiner's match on Thunder. Once again, Scott Steiner stole the win by himself, leaving Rick out to dry. Chris Jericho versus Steve McMichael.
This is a
Hot
guy.
damn.
Chris Jericho, much not like The Rock, but since he's been given lines and he's been allowed to talk, he's way more entertaining than when he was just wrestling.
Well, he's also in the ring with Mongo, which helped.
Last week,
did it?
this week, he's been way more entertaining.
All I know is I got to see Mongo try to take bumps. Always
comical.
entertaining.
Always.
I got to see him running the ropes.
Again,
I got to see him never being in the right place. I got to see him try to take bumps, which I think I mentioned, but it bears repeating. I saw him try to sell, and I saw him try so fucking hard to be this bad. God, it was amazing.
when he gets hit, he looks like a buoy in the sea.
He really does. That is actually a great description of Mongo's selling and bumping.
You ever have those inflatable punching bags as a kid?
Yes.
That's what Mongo is. That's exactly how he bumps and sells.
Can you imagine seeing Mongo work and then you're tasked with coming up for a finisher for this guy? After all I was talking about with Lex Luger in the fucking rack, and you decide, let's give this guy a fucking tombstone pile driver that almost killed Steve Austin.
Right.
Yeah. So on this note, we've been critiquing Mr. McMichael here for 2 minutes now. Somebody, and I'm sure it was Jericho, but somebody had the bright idea, let's do a super Frankensteiner on this guy. So
Good God.
So he's sitting on the top rope. Jericho's standing on the top rope, and Jericho jumps and does like a little head scissors and falls backwards. Mongo lets him go. Not for too long, but there's a little beat there that lets you know he has let the men go and is now jumping. And we've said it before, there's never been anyone who is simultaneously as athletic as Mongo and also as clumsy as Mongo. He jumped so fucking far for this Frankensteiner that this tiny little 200-pound man gave him.
I shrieked because I didn't think he was going to get over.
No, it's like he was so focused on jumping far, he got to flip.
Oh my god!
He flips to the very end and just barely makes it over.
You know, Chris Jericho has been a star in wrestling for 2 decades. A star, not just a guy. He's been a main eventer in some form or fashion for like 2 decades now. He's in a rock band that is rather successful. He's got a very successful podcast. He's been a success at many, many, many different things. And you want to know why? It all comes down to this goddamn Super Frankensteiner on Mongo. It does. I'm going to explain.
Okay.
If I'd been in WCW and they signed me to a match with Mongo, I'd have taken one look at that guy and I would have put a match together. And let me tell you what would not have been in that match. A fucking Super Frankensteiner. I'd have looked at that guy and said, no fucking way I'm trying that move with Mongo. You kidding me? Jericho was tasked to have a match with Mongo, and he looked at the guy and thought, I can make this fucker do a Super Frankenstein, and we're going to do it. And he went in there, and he tried. But the point was, that's a man who lets nothing get in his way.
He is not afraid to fail.
He's not afraid to fail.
He will take risks.
He'll try anything. He will take fucking risks. That's the story of Chris Jericho's whole career right there. That's Super Frankensteiner.
Did we talk 20 minutes about that one match?
I could talk 20 more. You want me to keep going?
Sure. So they go to break.
Thank you.
They come back, and Jericho's still in the ring. He's cutting an angry promo on the fans. How dare you people boo me? I was a fool to think I would ever be your role model. And then he realizes they are live on air, and he goes into character and says, thank you, everyone. I'm so happy I could be your role model. Rey Mysterio comes out because he has a match next. Jericho is appalled that Rey has interrupted him. He says, Rey, I've never interrupted you. What are you doing out here? Rey says, look, I just have a match next. It's for the Cruiserweight title. I want my belt back. That's it. Jericho says, oh, you're right. Of course. I owe you an apology. Good luck in your match. And he shakes his hand. And then, of course, when Rey turns his back, Jericho jumps him, lays him out, puts him in the Boston Crab. He's got him in the crab, and out comes Juventud Guerrera, the champion and Rey's opponent.
Dude, Juvi's turning heel, right?
I hope.
Because it was supposed to be Rey versus Juvi, so Juvi should have been right there behind the curtain, and Juvi waited till Jericho thoroughly beat Rey.
Yeah.
He gave him the beating of a lifetime. And then finally, when he's in the dude's hold tapping furiously, Juvi saunters down the ramp.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, everybody, I'm here from a match.
Well, they didn't play his music. I would have waited too.
And
Now,
then
you're not even to the best part, by the way.
gets to the ring, and he tries, I think he was going to do a springboard drop kick to knock Jericho off the guy. I think. Maybe he was just going to jump into the ring, but one way or the other, he fell right on his ass.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'll give the guy credit. He fell on his ass, and the whole building in Fort Lauderdale, or wherever the hell they were, bursts into laughter. And Juvi calmly gets up, and he looks at the crowd, and then he looks at Jericho, and he says, get the hell out of the ring. Totally no-sold it. Good for him.
So we got our Juvi Mysterio match.
Yeah, because Charles Robinson rang the fucking bell.
Charles Robinson says, this man is not suitable to fight. And then Juvi started punching him. And Charles says, I guess he is. And he rang the bell.
What a dick.
It went like 2 minutes. Rey got a small flurry of offense. Juventud Guerrera, who, as we noted, almost killed himself just getting into the ring a moment ago, grabbed Rey Mysterio and hit the same sit-down pile driver that nearly killed Steve Austin. I shrieked. I don't know how Rey survived this. And then Juvi followed with a 450 for the win. They re-aired Dylan holding up the world title on Thunder. Hogan and Bischoff then came out for a promo, ranting about courts and lawyers and injunctions, predicting Hogan's own future. And then he said they were too sweet. Gene introduces Jim the Anvil Neidhart to WCW. Out comes Jimmy. First debut on the new show, the number one show at the time, and I think Flair called it the big leagues. And he's got one promo, and one sentence in, he loses his train of thought. Gene's got to get him back on track. And finally, Jim says, Ric Flair is not the best. Bret Hart's the best. So Flair comes out.
It's the goddamn line he forgot.
Apparently. He puts Neidhart over as a tough guy, but I dare you to say that to my face that Bret Hart's the best. And Neidhart takes off his sunglasses, looks Flair in the eye, and says, Bret Hart's the best.
Let's just pause here for a moment and reiterate to the viewers that we were watching a back and forth between Ric Flair and Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Yeah. And so Flair says, did you bring your gear? Neidhart says, I'm ready right now. And he goes to the ring, and Flair says, I'll be right back.
Hold on a second. Flair says, did you bring your gear?
Right.
And Neidhart says something like, I was born in my gear.
I was born in my gear, were his exact words.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he just takes his shirt off. That's his gear.
I guess so.
No shirt.
Yeah.
Well, he was wearing sweatpants.
He was born in sweatpants,
I guess.
or his gear is nude body.
That's unfortunate.
One way or the other.
That's not the Anvil I know. What?
So anyway, Flair goes to the back. He says, I'll be right back. And by be right back, he was off screen for 5 seconds. And he comes out and he's still in his suit. And he gets to the ring and he's taking off his jacket and he pulls out brass knucks, punches Jim Neidhart with him. Neidhart's out.
Yeah, Flair's in a suit, and the idea is he's going back to change, which he did, but he changed into brass knucks
Yes.
in his suit.
So he punches out Neidhart, punches out the ref. He goes to hit the ring post figure 4, Bret Hart's move. And by the time he was done, it was clear it was Bret Hart's move.
Absolutely.
Bret runs out, brawls with Flair, places going nuts.
Jim had to help Flair put the move on.
Think about that.
I'm sure Flair had never done it before, and I'm sure he hadn't given it that much thought.
He went to throw his left leg up, and Jim held his foot in place.
Yeah. It actually, I mean,
All I know
it's
is,
a painful looking move anyway, but this looked really bad for Jim
Yes.
Neidhart.
you know what's amazing is he showed up in WCW as a paid employee or independent contractor. He was their guy. And this is what they did to him on his first night in.
Yep.
He looked like a total geek.
And if you remember, in his last night in WWE,
Yep.
on his fucking way to the other company,
Right.
they gave him everything.
Yes.
He was beating up the world champion, if I recall correctly, and it took 3 people to screw him.
More or less.
This guy made the wrong decision.
Clips of this week's Nitro party. A bunch of virgins
Did we even
chanting for the
talk
Nitro
about
girls.
Brett coming out and going crazy?
I did.
Oh. Well, he did.
Do you want to talk more about it?
Nah, he went crazy.
Okay, he made the save. Outsiders versus Steiners.
This was a great match.
I did not write down.
What a storyline.
I did not write down everything Michael Buffer said, but he did introduce the Steiners as both wearing black, with their traditional white and black mix and match boots.
Hell, he was right.
He was right. So, Steiners are running wild for a bit. It's awesome because they're the Steiners, and I mean Hall works with everyone anyway, but Nash with the Steiners, he's taking bumps whether he wants to or not. So we may as well go with it and make him easy and make him look good.
With that said, he took 3 bumps in this match.
Is that all?
Yeah.
It felt like more.
This guy could barely... One point he put, I think, Rick on his shoulders like he was going to do a snake eyes. Mm-hmm. And he only had to walk like 3 feet because Rick dropped behind him, but he could barely walk.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't believe he went so slow. And then I saw him try and get in and out of the ring.
Yeah.
That was even slower.
It was bad too when
Completely immobile.
he was trying to body slam Rick, and Rick went up good, but he couldn't hold him.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Steiners decide either of these 2 large men, I'm going to suplex them. And they did. Without thought, hesitation, or help. So Savage runs out to confront Nash. Hogan is there to play peacemaker, but Savage sticks around. Hall hits a chokeslam and mocks the Giant, and he turns around and gets suplexed high into the air. Nash starts to fuck up near falls and body slams. Rick goes up top. Hogan crotches him for the heat. This caused Scott Steiner to briefly go after Hogan, and the place went nuts again. Eventually, the outsiders bonk into each other. The ref gets bumped. Hogan punches out Ted DiBiase. Nash goes to make a cover on Scott Steiner, and Savage says, this is my chance. And Savage goes to the top rope, and he's going to drop an elbow on the big guy. But Kevin Nash dodges. And Savage drops an elbow on Scott Steiner. I guess it was Rick. Doesn't matter.
Rick.
Savage is clearly pissed he missed his target. So he leaves instead of just kicking the guy. Nash and Hall dogpile on Rick to get the pin. And the show ends with Savage and Nash screaming at each other, and the announcers screaming they will have to team next week on or this Thursday on Thunder. That is 2016 Raw booking right there.
So the story, Hall and Nash were the tag team champions, and then somebody beat them. I actually totally forgotten who. It doesn't matter, because the very next day they were just given the belts back. So they're the champions again. And then finally they lose the belts for real to the Steiners, except Kevin Nash isn't even there. It's Scott Hall and Syxx lose the titles to the Steiners. Hall and Nash respond by buying their own belts, so they parade around television the entire time with the other belts. Now keep in mind, these are in storyline fake belts. They went to the belt store and they made their own fake belts. They're not the champions.
Right.
But they still announced this as a unification match.
Yes.
And then they won and got their belts back.
Right. Well, even the announcers were saying it's not really a unification match.
That was a Michael Buffer thing.
Michael Buffer announced a unification match, and he's the guy. Anyway, the story of Kevin Nash is amazing. He never lost these belts. He had like 3 title runs without losing the belts.
Impressive, yes.
Very impressive. It's Nitro, everybody. Tune in for Thunder on Thursday. We should start watching Thunder. Reviewing it for the Thursday show.
Perhaps
What do you think?
an occasional thing.
No, they're not on the network.
Not regular.
Can you imagine they haven't put them on the network? Are there no Thunders? Not even one on the network?
I don't think so.
Man, oh man. I'm going to complain. All right, everybody, that's the
That's
show.
a shock.
Can I plug the wrestling show this weekend?
I knew that was coming.
Okay. This Friday night at the Washington Hall in Seattle, Defy Wrestling will be putting on their very first show. They're bringing in Cody Rhodes, and he's going to be wrestling Killshot in the main event. They're also bringing in Phoenix, Jeff Cobb, Matt
Are you
Cross.
listening to this?
Matanza.
Vinny?
Matanza.
In Seattle?
Yeah.
What's Cody doing coming to Seattle?
Entertaining people.
Matt Cross, who is, of course, Son of Havoc, and a couple of buddy students are going to be on the show.
Nice.
And this guy has got a lot of plans, and this is number one, the very first show. So he's...
Defy one.
Where was this guy when we were wrestling?
I don't know.
He missed out.
I think he was 10 at the time.
Well, that may have been a issue.
Somebody put up on Twitter the evening magazine thing that they did on Jack Evans.
Yes.
There's like a whole bunch of clips from
Right.
the training school, and Tim's yelling and screaming, and Vinny's there in the training school.
Was
and
I?
I'm- Yeah.
sure I can
They
watch
very briefly show you. And then there's a clip of a very, very fat Chico Alvarez giving Jack the advice, you don't need to kill yourself. Apropos to this day. That's what things were like back then.
Yeah.
Now we've got Cody Rhodes, Matanza's coming, Killshot, Matt Cross, Phoenix. What the hell's going on around here? Damn it. Oh well.
Yeah.
Check it out this weekend, everybody. And that is it. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.
Bye.